Welcome back, folks, to Two Brits, One Puck. I'm your host, Mr. Intangibles, and a night boy, Dan Masters, with my good friend, a man who likes to read the rulebook, and a man who needs a new hockey team to follow, Will Everett Human. Will, how you doing?
I'm still a bit gobsmacked, to be quite honest, Dan.
It was an interesting day. What was interesting to me was that I send you messages quite frequently, and unbeknownst to the people at home, our dear listeners, it can sometimes take you 2 or 3 days to reply. Yeah, I replied, Montgomery's been fired, and I got a reply back in about 8 seconds. So it's clear where your priorities lie, Will.
Just certain things, you caught me at the right moment, Dan. What can I say? And it,
I guess so.
You just,
I guess so.
It was an interesting thing for once. You sent me a message in, so I thought, well, I've got
Touche. All right, so obviously we'll talk about Montgomery later, but there was some other big news this week with implications for certain hockey players, which is that Russia has been banned again from all competitive sports, well, appearing under the Russian anthem and the Russian flag, as happened a few years ago when we had the Olympic athletes from Russia. RUSADA, which is Russia's anti-doping agency, which does sound like a made-up name, if I'm being honest, was non-compliant in handing over manipulated data to investigators in 2019. So there we go, they've been banned again.
They refused to hand over manipulated data.
It says they were non-compliant in handing over manipulated data.
See, that sounds like the doping or the anti-doping agency were like, look, you don't even have to give us genuine samples. Just give us something, and they were still like, nah, fuck you two's up. We're not even going to give you anything.
I wondered if it was more kind of, look, we know this data's bullshit. Can you just tell us why? And they went, no. So maybe it was that. I don't know.
More sensible way of looking at it, I suppose.
But of course, it now means they can't compete under the Russian name or with the Russian flag. So I said to Will, we should try and come up with a new name, not OAR, and a new flag. So what did you have for your name, Will?
For my name, I'm going to go. I've got 2 choices for my name, and they're both. We're going to a few choices actually, a few suggestions, and you can
go on then.
Choose your favourite out of the lot. We're going to go into the past a bit, Dan, because while you can't compete as Russia, you could still compete under a name and a flag that is very that is still Russia. It's still representing Russia. None of this Olympic athletes or independent athletes hailing from the Greater Moscow area or another thing. Nothing like that.
Yeah.
So I think the solution to our issue, Dan, is conscription. Any decent Russian hockey player or decent Russian athlete, just get conscripted into the army, and then bosh, Red Army athletes. Oy, oy, oy.
Oh, that's amazing.
That,
Red Army athletes. I love it.
Absolutely love that, didn't you?
I was thinking like along the lines of Chernobyl, where they got those guys to clean all the stuff off the roof.
Yeah.
Like you go out there, you run for 30 seconds, then you're done. That's it.
And they're all living in like a ramshackle camp, and like
just outside the village.
Like who's a young Russian guy? Like Andrei Svechnikov turns up for his for the World Championships, and he just goes into a tent, and there's like Alex Ovechkin and Evgeny Kuznetsov just doing lines of coke.
Oh, fantastic! What else did you have?
I had one a little bit more serious. I was going to say Scythia, which is one of the earliest sort of known names for an area in Russia.
Oh, okay.
Not quite as funny or interesting. Or otherwise, again, harking back to the past, a bit more blatant. Just goes to USSR again.
That's what I thought you were going to say the first time.
Soviet Union, why not? Dig out those old CCCPs.
Is it the hammer and sickle?
Yeah, hammer and sickle. That's the one.
Yeah, the hammer and sickle. Yeah, get that back out. Can you imagine that? Like they suddenly drop they drop a flag and it's just the hammer and sickle, and they're just like, we're back.
Yeah,
oh my god,
you forced it out of us.
It's just Jim Ross. By God, that's the Soviet Union's music. It's the greatest twist of all time. Out comes Gorbachev with his birthmark.
I've been waiting in the shadows for far too long.
Yeah. Putin was just my puppet. I am the real master.
And now my opportunity to play first line centre for the Russian national team has come back.
I went for an acronym. I went for Democratically Oppressed People Earning Respect Sportingly, which is DOPers. Yeah. I thought that made made a lot of sense. Just get straight to the point. No messing about.
Are you going to do some proper xenophobic Red Scare stuff and spell the sportingly with a Z? So it's probably like dopers. So it's got a slight 90s swing to it. It's good.
What do you think? What do you think about the flag? What should that be?
In all seriousness, there's only one choice for the flag, and you've got to get that like double-headed eagle, just in black on a red background. Bosh, just embrace the fact that you're fucking pure evil, and go from there.
I went for a syringe with a red, like the no entry signal, like the with that behind it, and then a thumbs up, because hey, we're not taking drugs, we're good.
No, yeah, we don't do that.
We don't do that. We're really sensible. Fantastic. There we go, Russia. If you want to get in touch, interestingly, I'm hoping to talk to somebody who's very knowledgeable about Russian matters in a few weeks for a new interview. So I'll ask her what she thinks.
Ooh, little teaser. Absolute
little teaser. Let's go on with the show, shall we?
Yeah, I suppose so.
Hey everybody, it is that time of the week. It is your smooth recap. Gambling is already rife in the NHL, and the evidence is already on the ice for all to see. Clearly Jason Spezza had a cheeky bet on the Avs to beat the Leafs this week. Why else would he get in Morgan Riley's way so that Val Nichushkin could score a short-handed game-winning goal breakaway?
Known shirtless marijuana abuser Jumbo Joe Thornton is wanted in the state of North Carolina for his suspected involvement in the murder of a Czech national residing in Raleigh. More on the story as it develops. The giant Swedish bearman Victor Hedman is the first defenseman in Lightning history to score 100 goals. Ding dong, the witch is dead, as the Colorado Avalanche become the first team this year to beat the Boston Bruins in Boston. A truer set of heroes has never been seen. Jack Eichel extended his point streak to 14 games. I don't know if you know this or not, hockey fans, but he was taken in the same draft as Connor McDavid. Nathan McKinnon's cry for financial help is still falling on deaf ears. According to Forbes, the Avalanche centre claimed he would take less again on his next deal, while winking so hard it looked like a distasteful Carl Soderbergh impression. As I frequently tell my wife, do not let anyone fool you into thinking that size matters. Jean-Gabriel Pageau leads the league in short-handed goals since 2015. The 2020 Winter Classic in Dallas, Texas is set to become the second largest crowd ever at such an event, trailing only the 2014 game in Michigan. Suck it, Chicago. Sebastian Aho is the only active player to score multiple hat-tricks that consist of an even strength, power play, and short-handed goals. That's 3 different ways to score. The 4th best player ever once scored 5 different ways, but his name escapes me at the moment. Jordan Binnington allowed 4 goals on 8 shots against the Maple Leafs this week. Yes. And that was your smooth recap. You're liking his Binnington narrative, aren't you? Oh, mate,
you're sticking by your prediction from the pre-season.
He's not only is he a piece of shit, Dan, but he is shit as well. Like it will come to light soon enough. Don't you worry about that. It took a couple of years for Scott Darling to be chased out of the league, and I've still got faith.
Oh, Scott Darling! Oh God, yeah. God, remember that guy?
Who?
Yeah, exactly. All right, who's winning the cup?
Winning the cup is I'm going to be a little bit topical here, Dan. Finland have won the cup this week by electing Sanna Marin, who is set to become the youngest world leader at age 34. Well done, Finland, for some progressive politics, which we could all do with taking a leaf out of your book at these trying times.
Yeah, shout out to best friend of the show, Meredith Foster. I know she had a vested interest in that news as well.
And I think all the leaders of the five major parties in Finland are female, and I want to say 4 of them are under 40.
Do you ever just look at that and think, what have I done with my life?
I don't know, like, yeah, I'm barely up on British politics, let alone Scandinavian or even Finnish politics. So, like, I'm sure there are still internal issues that Finland struggle with. But yeah, you look around the world and you think there are much more progressive countries than the UK or Canada or the US, and
Yeah, no
you can
shit.
just hope that we all catch up at some point.
It's a fucking shit show over here, isn't it? Jesus.
Jeez Louise. I'd say something about tomorrow, but it's going to be too late. So, yeah, if you're listening, you better have fucking voted, or else I'm coming to your house and I'm going to smack your bum.
Winning the cup for me this week are the Carolina Hurricanes, as mentioned in the smooth recap. As Joe Thornton bringing back the throat punch, I was very impressed. But he hits Peter Mrazek, who goes down during a scrum. And the next day at Canes practice, someone had spray painted a dead body outline on the ice where Mrazek was, with PM34 inside the victim's outline. It was fantastic. I love the Hurricanes so much. They're the best.
So good. Like, they've just so embraced that side of the marketing.
I'm hoping it comes out in a few years that there's actually a dedicated, I don't know, like director of fun or something for the Hurricanes. I don't know what you would call it, like director of excitement or something like that. Am I going to go, what? Oh, it's that guy. He was the guy who did all this stuff. I get it.
Tom Dundon has made his money in very, very, very reprehensible ways. But you
I like the but.
However,
I mean, he's a war criminal, but...
repeated child murderer Tom Dundon.
Yeah, but... Allegedly. Satire. It's satire.
Allegedly Randy Tom Dundon. But you know, like, the perception of that team has changed so much since he came in, and you can't help but think that there's a bit of a correlation there. So...
Oh, completely. We laughed, didn't we? Because he said, I want to come in, I want to change the way people see hockey, I want to change this. And we were just going, yeah, mate, of course you will. Like, whatever. And he has. Fair play to him. He absolutely has. That team is completely different.
That's the thing. Like, I don't want to congratulate him because he's praise on the needy and the poor, but credit's where credit's due.
Yeah, in the hockey sense, credit where credit's due.
Yeah, exactly. Not in the credit sense. There you go. God, mate.
I was going to say...
Is this the blooming Late Show, John Oliver or something? Fucking hell.
Right, who's getting relegated?
You know who's getting relegated.
Do I will?
It's the Dallas Stars, Dan, unsurprisingly. I'd say turning into a shit show of an organisation, but it's more that becoming more apparent and more on the national and international stage that this is a very dysfunctional organisation.
I will say, people, Will's been banging this drum for about 2 years, and every time something happens, he just goes, see, I told you.
There you go. Obviously, we don't exactly know what's happened with Monty, which we'll cover a bit more later, and it's not necessarily the Stars' fault that it's happened, or whether it's something that could have been weeded out in the interview process previously, but it's just another thing to add to the list with Horseshitgate, with the hiring of Ken Hitchcock, with... even going back years and years and years to when they were bloody bankrupt and stuff like that. Like, bad organisation, man. Very, very, very bad.
As I mentioned with the director of excitement for the Carolina Hurricanes, I feel there must be a director of misery working with the Vancouver Canucks because those fucking V jerseys were so bad. I nearly stopped watching the sport forever. Oh my God, they were horrendous. They were horrendous.
But it's classic, though, isn't it? It's a throwback.
Yeah, but some things should be thrown far back enough that we never see them again.
No,
you know?
I disagree. I think.
Do you know what I thought when I saw it? I thought it looked like a 1990s West Germany away kit. That's what I thought.
Oh, mate, I don't even know.
When football kits were a bit bonkers in the early 90s, like that's what it looked like. It was just terrible.
Nah, I think if you've got something, yeah, it's a terrible looking jersey, and like, I think pictures from the 70s don't do it justice. It wasn't until like you see it nowadays and like in a modern setting, where you're like, "Fuck, that's horrendous." But I think if you've got something that bad in your back catalogue, you've got to crack it out every now and again.
No,
you have to. You have to.
No,
especially like where it's such an iconically weird and bad jersey.
Yeah, but then put it in a museum or something.
It is in a museum. It's called the Hockey Hall of Fame.
I don't mean that kind of museum. I mean like a museum of horrors. Not
like the London Dungeon.
Yeah, like the Black Museum that shows all these torture devices and things. No, awful.
They have a sign on the wall before you enter the exhibit. It was like, pregnant women and those with heart conditions are advised to not view this jersey.
Can you wear blackout glasses or something, or a blindfold like that Sandra Bullock movie, whatever it was called now. I can't remember.
I'm sorry, sir. If you're on any sort of blood thinning medication, you cannot attend this museum.
Yeah, exactly.
I just think like it's so like there are bad jerseys, but this is just fucking weird.
There are bad jerseys, and then there are bad. We love a good jersey discussion in the show, as we know. And there are bad jerseys, but this is a bad jersey. How many starters and scratches you got?
I've got 2 of each. Gone pretty evenly balanced this week.
I've got 2 and a 1. I'll go first. Did you know that Snoop Dogg is in NHL 20
Mate,
as a guest
You're
commentator?
not starting now, are you? Fucking hell.
What?
I don't know. I just hate fun.
I was going to say, all right, I will say, they should fix the game more than anything because there are certain parts of it that are just terrible. And again, every fucking year, Hockey Ultimate Team just gets absolutely murdered by people. Even though everyone still plays it, I don't play it, as you know. I stopped playing it a long time ago. But even I was like, hang on a minute, that's Snoop Dogg? Wait, what the fuck? And he appears in every part of the game. He's not just in a certain thing. So I was on my franchise mode, and I heard Snoop Dogg. Amazing. I loved it. I'm all for a good gimmick now and again.
Yeah, it's good, and like having Snoop Dogg associated with the game of hockey is better than not having him associated. But
yeah, exactly.
I want Snoop Dogg in other games instead, like The Witcher. He's just walking along, and bam, Snoop Dogg's there.
Oh god, he couldn't be called Snoop Dogg though. He'd have to be called.
What?
He'd have to be called some. I don't know, like Snoopy a K9 or something like that. He couldn't just be. He'd have to have he'd have to have his name Witchified.
Witchified. Oh mate, yeah, more Snoop Dogg in more games. That's the way we need to go. So I can't stop kneeing on my table. My first starter, I'm going to start the Mafia. Dan, have you heard about what the Mafia have done this week?
Yes, I have heard about this week.
So
go on.
For the uninitiated, those who aren't getting the Mafia's weekly, aren't signed up to the mailing list.
What Mafia magazine?
Mafia. Which recommended Mafia?
Or if you've never seen The Sopranos, by the way, as well.
So, in the Mafia, homosexuality is traditionally frowned upon. They don't like the gays. The Mafia people.
It's frowned upon being it's a murderable offence. You mean?
But that's like
which it is.
That's like a lot of things. Like if you're that's same difference in the Mafia. They're murdering for anything. They're the Mafia.
I get it, but I like the way you said it was frowned upon.
But it was frowned upon.
Being murdered for being gay is they frown upon it. I don't know if you know that.
I'm not a fan of that, so you're gonna die.
No.
Point being, we don't need to worry about that anymore because homosexuality is now A-OK, according to the Mafia. They're allowing gay Mafia members, openly gay Mafia members. And the thing that sparked this change of heart from the world's most notorious crime lords is that one of the Mafia...
shout out to the Yakuza, by the way, just in case. And the triads.
I'd say they're probably more... If you polled anyone on the street to name like an organised crime syndicate, 9 out of 10 are going to name the Mafia.
I see, but is that your Western bias saying that? If you go to India, China,
yeah, but
what are they going to say?
If I'm doing this poll down, I'm not going to get on a fucking plane just to go and ask some Japanese person if he's heard of the Mafia.
Well, that's a very bad poll then, Will. It's not very representative, is it?
But bloke on the street is bloke on my street. It's not just bloke on a specific street that is then going to sway the results.
I mean, big surprise you're a Stars fan, but let's carry on.
I was trying to do a feel-good story here. What I was trying to get at is one of the mob bosses, his son is the quote that I saw, a fabulous drag queen, which is just beautiful. And I just think that's a proper testament to loving yourself and doing you and, being who you're meant to be. Where if you're a bloody Mafia boss's son and you have probably seen people be executed for being gay, and you're still like, I've got to be true to myself and be a fabulous drag queen. It's just beautiful. I'm looking forward to the film adaptation of this.
Oh God, you know it. You know it's going to come out. Yeah,
I
definitely.
hope so.
I think it shows that the two main reasons for anybody doing anything are money or nepotism, and there you go. That's it.
Yeah. Thanks for bringing us all back down to earth with that.
It's true though.
It is very true. Yeah, it's not going to be. Yeah, it was never going to happen otherwise, was it?
No, not at all. Not at all. My second starter this week, I've got to start Layla Anderson, the amazing girl who helped the St. Louis Blues win their first Stanley Cup.
What's she done this week? I haven't heard what Layla's been up to.
She got to meet her bone marrow donor,
Oh, safe.
who was a young pre-med student, to give him his due, by the name of Kenton Femley. And they met for the first time. There was a kind of a presentation, and he came out on stage, and they hugged. And it's one of those stories. Layla cried, Kenton cried, everyone in the crowd cried, I cried. It was beautiful. Find the video if you can, because it's completely heartwarming and touching. And this is also a public service announcement. Please make sure you're a donor, people, of any kind. Donate everything. I think I've said before on this show, once I'm dead, just take it all out of me, and then just chuck me out of a moving car like a Christmas tree that you don't need anymore. Because I don't give a shit. Just take everything. And, you can help somebody in your death. And that's a very good thing.
Can you
Or in this case, as young Kenton found out, you can help somebody in your life as well, which is also great.
Can you donate skin when you're dead?
Probably not. Well, no, I don't know, actually. It would depend on the age of you, I guess.
I feel
if the skin matches up, I don't know.
I feel like you don't get skin donors, do you? Like I don't think you can do a skin. Well, I suppose if you can do a face transplant, you can do like a skin graft from somebody else's skin.
What happened after your motorbike crash, Tony? Oh, it was terrible. Like half the side of my face was missing. But you've got skin on your face. Yeah, I know. This is some builder fell off some scaffolding. This is one of his arse cheeks. It looks amazing, doesn't it? Like, can you imagine if you wanted some skin donating to your body? Like, where's the skin coming from? Like, don't give me the ass. Oh, come on.
But it probably just comes from like all the skin just ends up in like a big bin somewhere. You know what I mean? Like, and then they're just fishing it out.
Skin bin.
Like, there you go. Skin bin. Yeah.
Go get it from the skin bin. Yeah, because there's only certain places you can take skin from, isn't there? And like the arse cheeks and the thighs are the two best places.
Really?
Apparently.
Well, I suppose they're big
so.
surface areas, isn't it?
Exactly. Yeah. You ever seen Silence of the Lambs? Exactly. It's the best place to take skin from.
I've heard that the best meat's in the rump.
A side story as well is that when my mum always made a point to tell me that she said, like when I die, you have to let people know that anything I can donate, I will happily donate. I want to help people afterwards. So I was talking to a nurse the day after my mum died because I had to go in and sign some things and get some paperwork and that kind of thing. And I just said to her, oh, I'm just pointing out that my mum said that you can just take anything you want from her, it's fine. And the nurse just looked at me like, the fuck, like what? Like, she was quite startled.
By the way, I would like her kidneys. Like,
yeah.
I do have first dibs on a couple of things.
Yeah. But yeah, the moral of the story, people, you should be a donor. It's a good thing.
Yeah.
All right.
You might help someone like Layla, or
exactly.
Yeah, exactly. My second starter, a bit more hockey orientated. I'm going to start Ty Dellandrea, Dallas Stars prospect who's playing for the Flint Firebirds in the OHL. Have you heard about the week that Ty Dellandrea's had there, Dan?
I have not. Well, no.
Unsurprising, but the stats are pretty fucking crazy. So he's played 3 games in the past week. He's had 6 goals in those 3 games. He's had 5 assists on top to match 11 points in 3 games, which is almost 4 points a game, which is all right, I suppose, isn't it?
Not bad, yeah.
13 shots on goal in those 3 games. And young Mr. Dellandrea is a centre iceman, and in those 3 games he has taken 94 face-offs. Which is all right. It's not bad, I suppose.
Bad indeed.
No bad. So congratulations, Ty Dellandrea. You're a fucking beast, boy.
A hell of a week. Actually, just quickly, I just remembered. Extra starter thrown in. I'm going to start Dougie Hamilton for scoring from the halfway line.
Mate. Yes.
Who did he score that on? Was it Koskinen?
I assume it was Koskinen.
Who's the Oilers' backup?
Mike Smith.
Fucking Mike Smith, yeah. It was terrible as well because it wasn't even screened. Have you seen it? It was just a straight shot.
Mate, absolute laser of a shot is what it was.
I know. But if you're paid to stop pucks, just stand there and let it hit you in the chest.
I'd imagine that Koskinen was trying
laser or not
to
from
do
the
that.
Fucking I don't think he was, Will. Because if he had done it, wouldn't have gone in. Laser or not, from the fucking red line.
I don't think
like
you're
bobblers
necessarily...
or bouncers.
I don't think you're familiar with Mika Koskinen's previous work, Dan.
You make a fair point, actually. Yeah, what am I thinking? Of course he scored. I'm an idiot.
God, mate. Yeah, that's beautiful. That's just beautiful.
It was. All right, your first scratch?
My first scratch is Brett Ritchie, Dan.
Noted mathematician Brett Ritchie.
Noted mathematician Brett Ritchie. The quote is, it's an 82-game season. We weren't going to go 80-3 or whatever it was. Well done, Brett.
Sorry, can you just read that quote again to me? I just want to count something in my head. Go on.
It's an 82-game season. We weren't going to go 80-3 or whatever it was.
He forgets between the words 82 and 80-3, there's 7 words. In that time, in those 7 words, he forgets what he just said. Not only how many games there are in a season, but he just reminded himself how many games there are in a season, and he forgot.
I love how he went for 80 wins as well. Like, it's not like it's not like he said, it's not
even
like
though already due to their record, that's mathematically impossible as well. Like, even if they win out now, they're not going to get 80 wins.
But it's like he's not giving himself. He's not even doing maths. He's just failing to say 82. Like, it's not like he's trying to work out 14 or 77 plus. How many games short of 82 77 is. He's literally just got to say 82 and then 80 and 2.
I know.
Jesus.
To be fair, though, in this world, in these days of fake news, he's not wrong. They were never going to go 80-3. You know.
I'll give you that. It's not, the quote itself is not inaccurate.
That's 100% factual quote. So, give him some credit somewhere.
For shame, Mr. Ritchie. You shouldn't have given up your schooling for the sake of playing an average OHL career and then becoming a fourth line in the NHL.
Another important message this week, folks. Stay in school, okay?
Or at least do some online classes or something. Fucking hell.
Yeah, at least get GCSE maths at grade C or above if you can. Try your best. I couldn't relegate the New Jersey Devils again this week, but I can scratch them. And I think I will, as the other night against the Preds, they had too many men on the ice. Those too many men were 10 men. They had 10 men on the ice at one point, Will.
Yes, that's awesome.
Now, some would say that the Devils are running a bit of a shit show at the moment. I don't think they are. I think their analytics department is so ahead of the game that they're thinking, hang on a minute, how do we double up all our chances? Double the men. Very smart, very smart. 10 men on the ice, I think it's the way forward.
That's like, how does that even happen? Like, that's not even just, a couple of people are a bit slow on a line change or whatever. That is.
Do you know what it is? You would think after guy number 8, yeah, you would think after guy number 8, guy number 9 went, hang on a minute, this doesn't seem right. But no, off he goes.
I love the idea of what Nesradine behind the bench. Right, line 3, pair number 2, out you get. One of the other 5 skaters are on the ice and they're just turning to each other like, okay.
It's just like, over the top, charge! Just send everyone. Oh, dear.
I don't want to go, boss. I don't want to go.
Yeah, I'm scared. Get out there. Okay.
Bayonets up Taylor Hall's ass.
Oh dear. 10 men on the ice. Brilliant. And your last scratch?
My last scratch is going to be Donald Gosling, who is a recently deceased tycoon of NCP car parks. Dan, do you get NCP car parks up top?
Yes, we do, Will, as I do not live in the 4th century.
Well, I didn't know if NCP was a South only thing or something like that.
No.
Like
jelly deals.
No. Yeah, even more. Yeah, or
saying all right, governor.
All right, governor. Yeah, but there's other stuff that's South only or whatever, isn't there? Or North only. I'm trying to think.
North only things are like flat caps, greyhounds, meat pies, chips and gravy. That's a northern thing.
No, but that's not like North only though, because I unsurprisingly have had a meat pie, have seen a flat cap, and had chips and gravy. Like, I'm talking like, I don't know, like there's.
Breaking news, we can't think of anything. Has the North-South divide truly been quashed? Will?
Wow.
Are we breaking this news in 2019?
There was a fizzy drink brewed in Folkestone called Bing. Have you ever had Bing?
I've never had Bing.
There you go. So I'm thinking stuff like that. Point is, Donald Gosling, I'd say rest in peace, but he's clearly a prick. He's left in his will £50 million sterling to the royal family, Dan, so that they can build a new yacht.
Yes, I did hear about this. Yeah, I don't get it.
For one of the most extortionately priced multi-storey car parks in all of the world.
Dude, it's insane. It's insane. This is such an old man rant, but fucking hell, you go to Manchester City Centre, you park in an NCP, it's £12 for like 3 hours. Like, what the fuck?
That's offensive. That's so bad.
I know.
NCP are notoriously criminal as well. I'll tell you, absolute car park touch. There's a primary school. Like right.
That's a southern thing. Saying touch. That's the most southern you've ever been on this show.
Absolute touch.
I'll tell you, mate. Absolute car park. Fucking touch.
Absolute touch.
Give me the fucking right amp.
Right, so I'm walking down the street. Right, see this bird. She's a right fucking salt.
Proper salt. Proper salt,
mate.
Go on.
So there's this primary school in the centre of Norwich that doubles up as it opens its like playground as a car park on the weekend, and it's fucking dirt cheap. It's so good. Like you drive into this school and you drive onto the playground, and obviously where it's just like a playground, there's no marking for the spaces. It's
for the cars, yeah.
Lawless, mate. It's absolutely fucking lawless. You got people like parking in a line down the middle of it. You got people parking on either side. Like it's mental. Like it's the most ridiculous thing I've ever seen, and it costs you like £3 to park there all day. It's beautiful.
Exactly. You want chaos? Well, that's what you're going to get for £3.
Yeah, what more could you ask for? And it's the sort
Do you know
of thing.
what though?
Go on.
Shout out to that school, because that's a smart move. How can we make money? We need car parking. There you go. Problem solved.
Yeah.
There's fucking oceans of tarmac.
Big up, Big Nold School. Thanks. Absolute touch.
That was amazing. Before we get on to our guest and the news, we're on Spotify, iTunes, Google Podcasts, YouTube, and other places that you can hear us. If you feel like it, chuck a cheeky review on iTunes and a 5-star rating so I can feed my family. Okay.
Cheeky.
Our guest this week is a DIYer, and he is completely punk rock, and I'm a huge fan of this guy. I was a fan of his before we started talking, and I'm honest to God, even more of a fan now. Jason Paul runs Wave Intel, which is a data visualization site, and he's the creator of the Versus model, which I hope a lot of you have seen on Twitter. If not, follow him at Wave Intel. It's great stuff. So he took some time out to sit down and have a chat with us. We discussed hockey, obviously, but it became kind of a bit like a life podcast, wouldn't you say, Will, in the end, where we kind of just talked about trying to start new ideas and get things moving?
Yeah, I think it all started when he started talking about his ball bag, and that completely derailed the conversation.
How potent he was. He is at Wave Intel on Twitter, and all his info is there. He's a self-made man, and he's trying to start something up for himself, and he's doing a great job. So here he is, Jason Paul.
Yeah, so you're probably naked then, right? That's why you're not letting me see you?
No, if I was naked, I'd definitely let you see me. This is going to be one of my questions, so I don't want to kind of ruin it too much, but it's kind of how do you balance trying to start something new with already having a family, and that family being used to things being a certain way, and then you saying on a Monday night at 6 o'clock, well, I've got to go and talk to somebody from Canada now, so I'll see you in a bit. It's it can be tricky.
And I feel your pain.
Yeah, I'll save that. I'll ask you about that in a bit. How's the? I've got to ask you this as a typical British question. How's the weather over there? Because it's freezing over here.
I bet you we're colder here.
Yeah, I was gonna say. Do you know what? Since I've started covering hockey, I whenever I go outside and think, man, it's cold today, I just think, oh no, wait, no, it's not. It's not cold at all.
Yeah, no, it's actually mild here. I think it's only like 2 degrees and raining, but normally it's about -10 at this time of year.
Oh my days.
It's brutal, man. Like I was watching a news feed of our prime minister meeting I forget where they were, but they were meeting other heads of countries. And I was just looking at them. I'm like, man, you're already pasty white. Like, you look like death. We all get that way, right? Like by the time January, February rolls around, miserable.
I know. I would see it's different for me because I get reverse sad because I hate the summertime. I can't be doing with it.
Really?
Yeah. I much prefer the cold.
That's strange.
I know. Oh, here we are. Here's
cold, relatively speaking. Yeah.
Yes. All right.
Yeah, I know a lot of people here love the fall and the spring as well. They can run, and it's not overly hot, and all that kind of stuff.
Ah,
Can I hear you now?
there you are. Hang on. I might have just cut off Jason. I'd already rung him.
Sign in. I'll stop complaining now that we've got a celebrity on the chat.
There we go.
How are you, Jason? You all right, mate?
Good, man. How are you? You made it.
I got there. So I was just telling Dan about how Skype was treating me like a dickhead, and I had to get it to text me to prove that I am who I say I am, which is the wonders of modern technology.
Do you have a family too?
Again, I was just complaining about having to care for my own toddler, Jason, which is a hard life that I know you're definitely very familiar with.
Yeah, I've got four.
Yeah. So I'll stop moaning about having to do anything for a baby girl. So what's the split? Two straight down the middle, 2 and 2, or
No, 3 girls and 1 boy. The boy's the oldest.
Oh, very nice.
He's 6. He's 6, so it's a shit show over here for sure.
How old's the youngest?
2.5.
Oh, good. Well, at least they're all growing up in a similar sort of speed. Yeah, you've not just got a newborn floating around with a 6-year-old as well.
Yeah, it is good. But the 2.5-year-old's like living with a chimpanzee now, right? Like she's just getting into everything. We've got the TV controllers like at the highest points of the house, on top of the TV, on top of the chandelier. It's just out of control here now.
Yeah, that's the same age as my daughter, and you just can't. I'm slowly realizing that, like you say, you can't leave anything anywhere at all. Doesn't matter what it is, like they will cause havoc with it.
I don't want to gloss over the main story here, Jason, but it appears that you're potent as hell.
Yeah,
you can't miss.
I think it has something to do with I grew up in Sault Ste. Marie, Northern Ontario, and there's all kinds of pollution and stuff in the water up there. So I think it has something
It's not just there's nothing to do apart from go to Greyhounds games.
Yeah, exactly.
Okay, so how do you balance your life now with everything to do with Wave Intel and the Versus model and all that kind of thing with having a family? Because me and Will struggle sometimes with having a family, and now we're starting this podcast from scratch. So our wives have kind of got used to living a certain way with us, and now we have to say, well, I'm sorry, I've got to do this, or I've got to do this for the show. How do you sort of balance that out?
That's a good question, man. I was going to ask you guys that, but I just don't think it's balance, man. There's no such thing as balance. It's like I kind of try to just do everything on the periphery, right? If I can do something at 11 o'clock at night, I do it at 11 o'clock at night. If I can call in sick one day at work and I get a bunch of shit done, that's it. It's like I try not to, as you guys probably know, do not interfere with the family, right? It's like you have to keep them happy. And I think all my other stuff has suffered, like the Wave Intel and my stuff. Like there's so much more I'd love to do. It just can't do it, right?
It's just a reality of life, isn't it? You've got like, as cheesy as it is, family does come first, and everything else, especially anything hockey related, is extra, is fun. It's playing with your toys sort of thing. So if you start sacrificing your family for the sake of having fun, I don't think you're doing right by them.
Yeah, like I don't know if how you deal with it, but my wife and I, we call certain times of the day like the red zone, right? Between 6:30 or 6:30 and 9 o'clock in the morning is like the red zone. You can't, and between like 3:30 for us picking up kids at the school and getting dinner and all that kind of stuff. Between then and bedtime, which is now stretched out for us to like 8 o'clock, is like red zone. We can't do. Nobody's sitting down. Nobody's having a massage. Nobody's playing Tetris, right? Like if you do that, you're just gonna get a punch in the face, right? So those zones, I'm like, I just block those out. Can't do it. Just got to be on your feet.
That's a good way to do it, having the like defined lines and not because a lot of people can work sort of on the fly and be a bit more flexible in that fact. But yeah, when you have the set blocks, it's like everybody knows where they stand, sort of thing.
Yeah, exactly.
Started out with us on the show where we would record on, I think, a Wednesday, and I would have the show out by Friday. But then it's too long for in a hockey world. That may as well be 3 weeks. So now I then put pressure on myself to have the show out the next day. But it involves on a Wednesday night. If we record on a Wednesday, I don't go to bed until sort of 1:30, 2 o'clock, and then get up again at 6, 6:30, and then I have to finish off the show Thursday night when I get in between, like you say, getting tea ready, washing, doing all that kind of thing as well. And I don't know why we do it. It's kind of it's crazy.
It is, and it's like technology has allowed us to kind of do it, right? Because if this was 5 years ago, 10 years ago, and you had to do this in the studio and call people up and all that kind of stuff, like you would say, can't even do it, right? So now you can do it, and it's like tantalizing because you're like, oh yeah, I want to do it, and then you semi-destroy your sleep patterns while you're trying to do it, right?
Because you've got to make sacrifices in whatever areas you can, and to speak boldly for the three of us, you can't sacrifice in the important areas like family, so you have to sacrifice the less important areas like physical health and sleep.
Exactly, man. Yeah, and just do it, right? Like you guys are doing it. I think it's awesome. And I mean,
thank you, man. Thank you. I mean, all we do is chat breeze once a week and then send it out. You're doing stuff that's got to sit there and be more a bit more current and a bit more interactive.
Yeah, I do a lot of it on the toilet. Tell you the truth, right? Like I set up like this whole analytical world, right, is awesome. But it takes a lot of work to look at the data. So the goal that I tried to do was make a couple tools for me. Like originally I didn't even make them to put out in the world. I wanted to do it for myself, right? So that I didn't have to flip from one website to the other and a different database and all this kind of stuff, or a different sheet of information. So I put it all in one so that I can actually have it on my phone, whether I'm on the bus or, in the loo or something like that. And I can quickly look up something. If somebody gets traded, I can look up at my data and I can quickly get it out on Twitter or make a comment about it. And so that has really helped me to kind of have that build up front to be a little bit more nimble now.
That was going to be one of my questions, is how does the data get to you? Are you literally just scrolling through websites looking for all the data you can find and putting it on yourself, or do you have like a team, or how does it work?
Well, I think I steal it, right? I steal the data from good people. No, it's a common practice, right? Like scraping. You've probably heard of scraping websites now.
Yeah.
So I'm not overly technical. I do as much as I can, kind of thing. I'm just kind of like almost like a beginner when it comes to that. But I just scrape the data from certain websites. And one of them is that I like the best is Natural Stat Trick. And
yeah, fantastic.
And then once I have it in my own database, I can do whatever I want with it, right? And today's technology is pretty simple. Like I wake up in the morning and I click a couple buttons and everything refreshes and all my tools are up to date.
Ah, okay. I imagine that there was. I thought you'd have sort of like interns or something like that, sort of sending you messages at 3 o'clock in the morning, for like at what our time, 3 o'clock up, like I don't know, midnight for like a West Coast game or something. Saying, "Oh, I've just seen this happen. You need to update this spreadsheet or something."
Yeah. When I first started my website and I started tweeting and stuff, that's what I did. I always said we, and I always pretended I had interns and stuff like that. I was having a lot of fun with that, but the truth is, it's just me. I've got some good friends that do a lot of data work and that kind of stuff, and they help me out a little bit here and there. And my wife is an epidemiologist, so she's basically a data scientist. Okay. So I pick her brain on how to do a couple things here and there.
But ultimately, if you're doing most of the legwork, Jason, you've got to start taking credit for it yourself, haven't you?
Yeah, exactly.
That's what it's about.
Thanks. Yeah.
So I'd imagine like the bulk of the legwork. How often do you review your tools and stuff? Because if you're mainly just doing daily data scrapes, then I assume updating the same tool, like feeding it into the pre-existing tools. How many times a year, if at all, do you update the model itself?
That's a good question. Well, I got to do it once. I have to do it at least once a year, like the data part, because of the new season. Once the season rolls over, then I have to kind of not build a new database, but update the database and the scraping. As far as the tools, the face of the tools themselves, like Versus, I tweak it all the time, but Versus is pretty. I'll do one big one per year, one change, I've gotten into changing the colors once in a while, or doing for Hockey Fights Cancer, I did the purple colors for the and that kind of stuff, and I'm starting to have fun with that. I love the design part as well. Like, I love the data, but I also love the design part. My brother's a graphic designer. He's a professor of graphic art, and I get a lot of tips from him. And I grew up with him, so he's given me some good pointers. So I don't know.
Your intern then.
Yeah, he's my intern.
But that's the graphical side of it is as much the important bit as the data. Obviously, the data has to be accurate, and it has to be important and interesting data for a fan to digest. But if you're not presenting it in a way that's at least remotely understandable for Joe fans, sort of thing, then yeah, what's the point of having it out there? So yeah, you're right to focus on that side of it.
Do you guys put you on a spot here? Have you looked at it? Do you like the data? Do you think it's a bit too much, or do you think it's a bit too in depth, or not in depth enough?
No, speaking of the graphical side of it, and I'm glad you noted. Sorry, Dan, to cut you off there.
No, it's fine.
I'm glad you know natural stat trick, because it is a lovely way to digest natural stat trick in a way that's a bit easier. Sometimes it can be a bit daunting sometimes when you're looking at reams and reams of just raw numbers and trying to pick out, right, what's this data actually trying to tell me about this team. And I'm such a knuckle dragger, Jason, that if you got some sort of not like ring graphs, for want of a better term, and bar graphs and stuff to show me, right, that if it's bigger it's good, if it's smaller it's bad, then yeah, I'm an absolute sucker for it.
Good. Glad you like it. Good.
No, yeah, I'm a huge fan. It was one of the reasons why I wanted to get you on the show. I'm a big fan of your work. I love the idea. Speaking of having the best ideas on the toilet, where did this idea come from? Was it while you were sat on the toilet, or what happened?
I don't know. I thought I love analytics, right? So I would go to Natural Stat Trick, and I would look at the Montreal Canadiens, and I would say, okay, what is their Corsi for, and what is how many high danger shots do they have, and then how does that relate to the league? Unless you sort it and then you count down, you're like, oh, they're 8th in the league, but are they 8th, or are they percentile wise, are they higher? So there's you look at 1 or 2 points and you start getting lost, right? So that was kind of what I thought. I was like, how can I look at all this more easily? I want to see a team compared to another team, but also relative to the league. Everything's about perspective, right? So that's where it kind of grew out, and I just started thinking of how I could make it look like that, right? And so this was last year, I guess, year this time, I started thinking about it. And then I don't know if you follow me that closely on Twitter, but I got diagnosed with cancer. Testicular cancer. Yeah, it was this time last year. That's a whole other podcast we can do. And so I got diagnosed, and it's all good news, right? I got one of my balls taken out, basically, and just like Phil Kessel and Shea Theodore. And
have you done your 40-yard dash since, before and after, to compare the trimming of the excess weight, or
yeah.
Do you feel inspired and faster?
Yeah, I was thinking about getting a replacement, but it was a little bit too expensive. And so,
well, congratulations for getting through that so far, Jason. That's crazy, man, to be keeping up all this. You talk about putting sacrifice and stuff, like.
But going back to the family thing, right, and where how you have time to do this, the reality was, I had like 2 or 3 weeks of recovery after surgery. And it's not like I needed to be laying in bed or anything like that. I just couldn't do heavy lifting, and I couldn't go to work and all that kind of stuff. So I had 2 weeks to work on it. And that was huge. To be able to get up in the morning with no kids, after the kids go to school, and work for like 4 or 5 hours on something like that. And that's the only reason I was able to hammer it out, basically, was to have that nice solid 2 weeks to do it.
So what you're saying, Jason,
I knew
is I didn't finish the sentence, but yeah, nice. I'm glad we all got to benefit from your extreme struggles. Jesus Christ!
Yeah.
Oh my goodness. With the Versus tool, especially, like, this is going to turn into a routine smoke blowing exercise. It's just it's all well and good looking at, say, all right, I'm a Stars fan. We've got the Predators coming up in the Winter Classic. I want a rough idea of, you can look and see how the Predators are doing this year compared to how the Stars are doing and stuff. But by using Versus, you can actually get a bit of a more, like I'm looking at it right now, like I see that the Predators are well outscoring the Stars when the Predators are on the road compared to the Stars are at home and stuff. And that's something that I wouldn't necessarily been able to glean, like you say, without having 45 different tabs open and probably having to use a legal pad to write down the blooming numbers.
Yeah, I'm glad. I'm glad you get value out of it as well. I mean, what I've learned since I've had this out here, and it hasn't even been a year. I think I launched it in January last year, or this year, is that gamblers love using it. So
why?
every time I make a tweak out of it, sometimes I'll throw it out on Twitter and say, I'm thinking about removing this or whatever. And then I get a bunch of people coming back to me. It's mostly like Twitter handles for like gambling, basically. So I think for me, that's a positive sign that obviously it works. People are putting money on it.
Yeah, geez, Louise, you can't have a bigger testament to how valuable a tool is than gamblers backing it, sort of thing.
Yeah. Yeah. And the other thing I learned was, I think it's way cooler than everybody else. I'm like, I think it's amazing. And then people are like my close friends, like, people who you kind of put stuff on first, who are huge hockey fans as well. I got tons of huge hockey fans as well, obviously, as friends. And they're like, yeah, whatever. Most people, I still find most people just like watching the game and they don't really they're not as in depth we have a small community of people that are really hardcore on this stuff. And I guess I'm in that community. But generally speaking, it's not, people just want to have fun and watch the game. They would prefer if I tweet out something that's like, you got to watch out for I don't know, the Flyers, because, they're pumping out really good underlying stats. They're really much better in the last 10 games and this and that. Some people will say that's great. But if I say something like Gostisbehere is a bum or whatever, that's going to get more action on Twitter with a GIF, right?
Yeah, exactly. But I think with being active on hockey Twitter, you can almost get a bit echo chambered as to how popular analytics actually are, sort of thing. Because I'm sure, speaking for the rest of us as well, like we all follow more analytics accounts and people involved in that world than your average hockey fan on Twitter does. So you sort of create your own inflated sense of how popular it is. But it feels like yours, Jason, and the actual visualization and visual processing of the data that will bring that information to the masses, because it becomes easier to understand and easier to apply to. My team's in the top right corner; they've got to be doing something good on this scatter chart, sort of thing.
Yeah, no, I totally agree. I've learned the past year that the average fan is not really up to speed on some of this advanced stats for sure. And you really have to explain it. Like, I can't just kick out a versus image and that's it. I have to I still have to explain it, which is great. I kind of like being an ambassador and helping change people. But at the same time, I'm learning every day as well. Like, these stats hockey is not an easy sport to understand.
No, especially on quantifiable counting stats, no matter how sort of underlying they are. Like, it still never tells the picture that we necessarily want them to be able to.
Exactly, yeah.
Do you think, Jason, if the major media outlets like your Sportsnet, your TSNs, your NBCs, if they start taking on that sort of side of it and start broadcasting the information, be it mid-game, be it in intermissions, do you think that would help drive the interest in? Is that what we're really waiting for like the analytics side of the game to be taken on by the average fan?
I think so, and I think it's slowly happening. Like, are you guys watching? You've got NHL.com. Is that how you?
Yeah.
And which feeds do you watch? Do you tend to watch the American feed or the Canadian feeds?
Whichever's like the clearest feed, I just go with that. So it just depends for me, really.
I find that clear feeds are usually the American feeds. Don't you find?
Honestly, I've never noticed, but yeah, now you said it, yeah, probably. Thinking about it.
Makes sense, large country and all that sort of thing. You probably got more sources for the streams and stuff like that. So
true.
Just by the sheer numbers, you're more likely to have a better quality one, sort of thing.
Yeah. So do you find the American feeds are using, like X goals or shot shares, Corsi, whatever you want to call it.
I found mostly you're lucky if you got a shot counter, let alone any of that sort of stuff.
I was going to say, yeah, you're lucky to get saves nowadays. Like,
Yeah, because I used to watch quite a few American feeds when I had the choice. Now I've got a new cable package, so I tend to watch the Canadian feeds, which drive me nuts a little bit, actually, to tell you the truth.
What is it about the Canadian feeds that drive you nuts? Because, being on the outside looking in, I'd always assume that, like, say the Sportsnet or a TSN package is going to be better because it's in Canada. Of course, it has to be better at broadcasting hockey. Yeah,
I don't think they're putting a ton of focus or money into the analytical side. It's like a very, it's in a way, I think it's Canada's sport, and we've been so good for so long that it's all about biases and old school hockey terms and stuff. It's not, I don't find that they present the game, I don't know, in a very fun way for the audience. I find that the American feeds are much more positive and fun in their description of the play and how they analyze the game. Whereas on the Canadian side, they almost provide a coach's view of things, which is everything. A goal happens because of a breakdown instead of an amazing play, that kind of stuff.
Yeah,
right?
yeah.
A lot of errors, right? Hockey is a game of errors and all that kind of stuff. That whole sentiment is really projected on the Canadian broadcast, I find.
Puck luck more than anything else.
Yeah, it is true, right? It's true, but it's brand. It's supposed to be an entertainment product, right?
And then to have that as your whole viewpoint on the sport at large really diminishes or gives off the idea that you don't appreciate the impact that skill has on the game.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, PK Subban, when he was playing in Montreal, I'm a big Montreal fan. And at the time, it was him and Carlson, basically 200 kilometers apart at a time when scoring was down and was just starting to come back up. We had the two most offensive defensemen in the league within a 200 kilometer radius. And it was special. It was great. And as a hockey fan, I just loved it. I loved watching the games, loved watching the replays. But if you watched a Canadian feed game during PK Subban's Norris Trophy winning season, he would get criticized half the game. They would say, "Oh, that was a very risky pass," or "Look at that, he lost the puck," or they pick out the errors, and at the end of the game, he has scored a goal and 2 assists, and the sway of the game was in his favor. Yet it was the errors that they pointed out, right? The 2 or 3 errors kind of thing.
Jason, I hate to break it to you, mate, but I don't know if you've been under a rock for the last couple of years or whatever, but PK Subban is very much still getting criticised day in, day out. No, off the earth. I'm sorry that I've had to break it to you.
In the end, right? They're right in the end.
Jeez. But it's funny you mentioned Subban, because when I only got into hockey about 5 years ago or so, and obviously when you first start watching it, especially as a Brit, so I haven't got that sort of inherent understanding of the sport as I would soccer or even like rugby and cricket, like our native sports. It's players like PK Subban that I could first latch onto and understand, right, he's a good player because he has that flair game, he has the skill, the game-breaking skill that he has is so apparent, so it's easier to understand than being able to watch a play and like you say, having that Sportsnet view of, okay, I see where the defender didn't have a good enough gap or whatever. And I think we should be actively promoting players like your Subbans and your Carlsons and even your Mitch Marners, your Kucherovs, whatever, the players that have that tangible sort of visible skill set that are going to bring new fans and get them to latch onto it as quicker.
You would think that Canadian networks would enjoy having analytics to talk about, as it would give them something new and fresh to discuss.
I don't know. I maybe it's just hockey is such an old school sport. I think one of the core reasons is a lot of the statistics are not trusted, and it has to do with the nature of the sport. It is such, like you said, puck luck. They use terms like puck luck or it just didn't go our way this time or whatever. It kind of describes how random the game is. And I read this book called The Success Equation. It was about gambling and stock market and sports. And basically the crux of it was, in the sports part of it, was that hockey is got so many variables and it's such a low scoring sport that the randomness in the game is higher than any other sport. So if that's true, then any data or any statistic trying to describe what's going on is not trustworthy, right? So even the regular statistics like goals and assists. So if a 40 goal scorer enters the playoffs, it does not guarantee he's going to score a goal in the playoffs in game 1 or 2 or 3, or even a 7-game series. So the past does not tell us about the truth or the future at all. So I think that inherently all the stats are not very good. So any new one is still not very good. Does that make sense?
Yeah,
definitely.
That's
Right?
that's something that me and Will have battled about before. Is that I still think when I introduce the show, I will sometimes refer to myself as Mr. Intangibles, because I do still think there is something weird about hockey in that sense that you just can't predict statistically what's going to happen. Because once you get to the playoffs, as we saw last year, like nobody can ever pick the winner. And one guy 1 year flipped a coin and he was the only one who got it right. And all the experts and all the analytics and everything, it's so strange sometimes that that's all people need to say, oh, no, it's useless. And that's kind of what they hang their hat on. And I guess it's just finding that middle ground, I suppose.
You know, the Corsi for, or the shots attempts for, or the goals for, any of the percentage ones, right? Even face-off percentage, like that gives you an insight of how close to random the sport is. So the best face-off guy is 56%. That means he's losing 44% of the time, right?
Yeah.
Are you gonna bet on him to win the face-off, like you against some rookie or something? Odds are, if he lined up against somebody he's never seen before, he might even lose it, right?
Yeah, absolutely. Like we lose our minds over like Patrice Bergeron sitting with like a 57% Corsi for percentage or whatever, and like that's such a tiny little margin. Yet it's so ingrained in our heads that we see it as a massive advantage when, like you said, it really actually isn't.
Exactly. It's an advantage. What they say in the analytics community, I guess, is it's an advantage in the long run. So all these stats are very, very good at saying, you know, in the long run, if you keep going at 57%, of course, you're going to, by the end of the season, you're going to be a winner. But are you going to win that one game that you need to win? Not necessarily.
No, exactly. Like, and even looking at like an individual game sort of thing, like to break it down and prove that even more, you can have a team that has 40 shots on a goalie. You can have 40 shots on a goalie that has like an 895 save percentage on the season, and he's still more likely to save all those than not. Yeah, nothing's, like you say, nothing's an indicator of future success. It's just reading the past and saying, right, this is what's happened so far, so we assume it will continue to happen into the future.
Exactly. And it's kind of like Dan said, it's like there's other variables there that we can't see that, you know, play into the success of a team or a victory, right?
Okay, cheers to Jason for that. Part 2 next week, obviously. The news this week is sponsored by Wave Intel. Visit waveintel.org for all kinds of crazy cool hockey analytical tools, and follow Jason Paul at Wave Intel on Twitter for the inside scoop on NHL analysis.
They've got a new tool that they've dropped today as well, which is
player versus. My god,
variation on his classic versus tool. If you love Viz, if you love players, if you love stuff, models, it's got everything. It's got everything you could want.
Case in point this week was Patrice Bergeron's good, but have you seen him compared to Philippe Deneau? I mean, come on, it's ridiculous. I mean, they're basically the same player. All right, news. The Board of Governors meeting took place this week, and of course, at the forefront was, I guess, the change in hockey culture. A multidisciplinary council will be set up to push initiatives and ideas. There will be mandatory annual training for all coaches, assistant coaches, minor league coaches, GMs and assistant GMs. There's going to be a hotline where players can report incidents anonymously, and teams will face severe discipline if they do not report something to the league that they have known about before. Where do we start with this? Do you like all those ideas, first off, Will?
Yeah, I mean, I like the ideas. It just depends on how they're implemented, really, and whether certain things are able to be implemented at all. The one that jumps off the bat is the whole idea of punishing teams for not disclosing information sooner. Yeah, I don't know, how do you generally enforce that?
It's a bit like the Department of Player Safety. So, like, is it going to be that a certain say they punish you with losing draft picks or something? I don't know. Is it going to be like, well, if you don't report racial abuse, that's a second round pick, but if you don't report physical abuse, that's a first round pick? I don't get. They're having to kind of draw their own line as to what punishment will fit what crime, so to speak. Which I guess they can do because it's the league and they can do whatever the hell they want. But
yeah, and in that respect, it's kind of hard to pass like judgment properly because it hasn't come to light what these punishments are going to be and how they're going to sort of action the situation. So, I mean, I haven't got a clue what sort of form that punishment would take. Whether it's going to be just obviously it's going to be personnel losing their jobs, which is the first step. But it's whether I don't know whether the league sees it as something that spreads further than the people directly involved, and at what point can you lay blame at someone's feet for something like racial abuse or physical abuse in a hockey team, and yet not think that person deserves to lose their job? You know what I mean? So like, how far does the buck get where it's like, right, you were involved, you didn't do anything about it, but it wasn't bad enough that we should get rid of you.
You can be punished.
But like,
yeah,
for me, like, teams are just jerseys, basically, aren't they? Like, the sort of the idea of a team, like the Boston Bruins, is just the jersey.
Yeah.
So like, just get rid of the people involved, sort of thing. You can't punish the team as a whole. Do you know what I mean? Like,
I mean, I guess it would have to be a fine or something like that. Like, you have to punish it. But then again, it's you getting into a player could ring up the hotline and say, I've been racially abused by my head coach. But then if nobody witnessed it, it just becomes he said again. Like, I kind of like Ron Francis and Peter Karmanos last week. One of them said that, well, I told them ownership, and ownership went, well, we didn't know anything about it. So what do you do in that situation? How do you assign blame to the team or to an individual? I mean, I applaud them for doing it. They've clearly got to do something, and it looks like they are trying to. It's baby steps, but the idea of hockey culture is now being discussed and being talked about, that we can't go on like this. So it is something, but teams getting disciplined in a certain way. I'm not sure how. I'm not sure how it can be enforced.
I don't know how that's constructive. Yeah, say there's an issue where head coach is racially abusing a player, reports it to the GM doesn't do anything about it, however far up you want to go. So the GM and the coach get fired. All involved parties get dismissed, rightfully so. What, you're gonna ban the team from drafting next year when it's a new GM who had nothing to do with it, a new coach who had nothing to do with it? It doesn't necessarily.
I mean, I guess they're just going to have to be. Yeah, they're going to have to do it properly. I mean, they're going to have to investigate it to the nth degree, almost like it's a court case. So there's going to be court proceedings or something. Like, interview everybody, find out what's going, because that's the only way you can do it. Because if it turns out that a GM just said, "I never did that," and the league went, "All right then," well then, for you, like, what are we doing then? It's got to be done kind of. It's going to be extremely. You've literally got to cross the T's and dot the lowercase J's. It's going to be extremely thorough. I don't know.
Something that I've been thinking about with this whole situation, and this links in well with what you're saying about how we're going to know whether something has happened, or whether how can we prove that things have happened if there isn't a witness. It might just be naive, but with the whole Bill Peters kicking John Michael Lyles on the bench, every single National Hockey League game is televised in some way, shape or form. Surely there has to have been video footage of John Michael Lyles being physically abused by Bill Peters.
Yeah, there probably was, but it's horrible to say, but it's true, is that just those things just happened, that people just went, well, that's just hockey.
Yeah.
And that's the truth. As terrible as that is.
That is. And that's, and that's a massive problem. That is the crux of the issue. The fact that the entire culture around the sport has enabled this stuff.
Yeah.
It's not like it's all happening behind closed doors. It's fucking right in front of your face with Akeem Lou and the blackface while he was playing
Oh,
with
fucking hell.
Colorado Eagles.
God.
Me, 2011.
If you don't know people, there was a fancy dress party, a Colorado Eagles fancy dress party, and Akeem Alou's team told him, his teammates told him to get to the party at a certain time that was later than everyone else. When he turned up, one of his teammates had dressed up as him in full blackface.
Wasn't one of his teammates. It was one of the trainers, one of the equipment staff.
Oh, was it? I thought it was one of his teammates.
Yeah, no, staff member.
Fuck's sake.
Staff member.
Oh,
Obviously,
God.
everyone at the party was complicit. So yes, this staffer, he's got a custom jersey with Akeem Alou's nickname on the back and his number. I don't know what the nickname was. And he's got an afro wig and proper boot polish blackface. And
yeah, like black and white minstrel shit from the fucking 30s.
And like you said, Dan, so Akeem Alou arrives late to the party, and apparently everybody is there in like a surprise party fashion. But the surprise is, look, surprise, you're being racially abused.
Fuck, I know.
Fucking look for it, people, because there's a fucking photo. They forced him to take a photo with the geezer, and like it doesn't take a fucking clinical psychologist to look at that photo and be like, well, Akeem Alou's clearly extremely uncomfortable in this position. It's like, what is wrong with people? And this is what I'm saying about it being in plain sight. Like, people are not ashamed of the shit they're doing because it's normalised by this.
And that's the thing. This picture's been out there for years. This picture was taken like ages ago.
8 years ago. 8 years ago.
And no one's ever thought to say, have you seen this? Like, what is this? But then I suppose, hopefully, like we said the other week, hopefully it's a new dawn and things are changing and the NHL is at least taking baby steps, but it has got a long way to go yet.
Yeah, and in a lot of respects, this is something that needs to be handled carefully. In a similar way that, you know, Bill Peters being fired from Calgary was a slow process because the Flames were trying to do it properly and legally and carefully and all that sort of stuff. So we can only hope that it's a slow thing to move because it's a big boulder they're trying to move, the NHL.
Here's the thing as well. I hate banging this drum, but I have to bang it because somebody has to. But I appreciate the fact that the Board of Governors are sitting down and talking about changing hockey culture. But the people who are sitting down talking about changing hockey culture are a bunch of rich middle-aged white men. And I just think, you know, on these multidisciplinary councils or the mandatory training, they need to set up teams where they are visibly from different backgrounds. It might be that all the people at the Board of Governors meeting, even though they're a bunch of middle-aged white dudes, are all very sympathetic to the entire situation. I'm not saying they're not. Maybe they are. But they do not understand how people of a different sexual orientation feel, or a different race feel, or a different gender feel. They just don't get it. We don't get it. Me and Will are as progressive as shit, and we're sympathetic to every person. Just, you know, be who you want to be. It's honestly it's the best thing. But I don't understand how Meredith felt. I don't understand how NHL history girl Jen feels if she goes to a game and there's guys like, oh, sit down, you fucking broad, and all this shit. I can't relate to that. You know, I have no idea how Akeem Alou felt when things like this were happening to him. That's something else the NHL has to do. They have to be seen. I mean, Christ, just, I don't know. Is it positive discrimination? Yeah, a little bit, but sometimes you need that. Set up a multidisciplinary team, have a black guy, a white guy, black woman, Hispanic person, somebody from fucking India, somebody who's bisexual. Just get a whole melting pot of people together and get ideas hashed out and plans put in place. It's the only way you can do it.
And especially where history shows that the demographic at the top are the demographic that are the biggest proponents of the issues.
Yeah.
So I know. We can but hope that we're moving in the right direction.
We're at least trending in the right direction. And then interestingly, a mere 12 hours after Gary Bettman lays out his 4-point plan, which includes if teams don't tell us something there for the fucking high jump, the Dallas Stars announced that they have fired Jim Montgomery.
Upon collecting all the information and executing an internal investigation, including speaking with ownership, management, and general counsel, It was determined that there was a material act of unprofessionalism contrary to the values and standards held by the Dallas Stars organization. It is very clear this cannot be tolerated, and therefore we have relieved Jim Montgomery of his duties immediately. This morning I addressed the team regarding the situation. As an organization, we're very fortunate to have strong leadership, not only at the player level, but also with our coaching staff.
Why can't you discuss the acts?
That it's out of respect for everyone involved. It was, as I mentioned, per my statement, it was, we decided it was unprofessional, a decision had to be made, and that's our statement.
What did your investigation entail?
We went through all the records, the information we received. Once I received, this all came to light on Sunday, and once I received all the information, we sat down, we had to digest everything, and as I mentioned, we talked to General Counsel and everything else, and made our decision.
So did this have anything to do with the NHL the NHL GM meetings the other day, and they talked about their 4 points
Yeah,
and
4
their conduct?
points, yes.
Did this have anything to do with that?
Yes, no, it doesn't.
I will hand the reins over here to my co-host, who I assume has spent most of yesterday with his head in his hands. The floor is yours, Will.
I mean, it's gobsmacking, isn't it? Especially when a team that had such a diabolical start to the season, how he survived that. As soon as he got fired, you knew oh shit, something's going on here. So Jim Montgomery was fired on Tuesday morning for what GM Jim Neal described as a material breach of unprofessional conduct.
Unprofessional conduct. Yeah.
Jim Neal then hosted a press conference where he repeatedly said, "I will not be revealing the details of that out of respect to Montgomery and his family and those involved." He said it's nothing to do with the 4-point plan. It's nothing to do with the scandal of abuse that's been emerging over the last few weeks in the NHL, and it's nothing criminal, allegedly. So he's left a massive black hole of speculation of what it could be that Montgomery has done. Apparently, it doesn't involve any current or former Stars players or players who played for Montgomery during his collegiate career at the University of Denver. So yeah, it's clearly a highly personal situation. Apparently he was tipped off Sunday morning about an issue, which there's word saying it was related to something that happened Saturday night. So apparently an individual tipped off Jim Neal of the situation. He then acted extremely swiftly and 48 hours removed Montgomery from office. It's a hard one, Dan, because we don't really know what the fuck's gone on, apart from it's not this, it's not that, it's not the other.
If it's nothing relating to anybody else, it has to be something he's done to himself personally.
No, it's not.
Right?
They're not saying it's nothing relating to anyone else. It's just nothing relating to anyone in the hockey world.
Okay.
Okay. It's no Dallas Stars employee or player. So that let's start the speculation, Dan. The remaining people.
Wait.
God.
Let's just throw out we're going to throw out allegedlys, and this is purely speculation.
We're purely just trying to educate the people as to what your reasonable.
What we think it could be.
Well,
but we're not saying it is.
It's we're only filling in gaps that have been left there anyway. It's a well and good looking at, it's not involving this, it's not involving that, but then naturally we're just filling in, so that leaves it as potentially this, potentially that. There's not even any allegedly. It's just it could have maybe been this. There's no allegedly because there's no one has said that it was anything. So we're merely listing things that Jim Montgomery could have done. And I feel like I'm setting up a sketch, but we're not.
Maybe I should talk to my Crown prosecutor friend for the correct legal terms we need to use here, just in case.
Without prejudice.
Yeah.
So the prevailing theories of things that sort of categories of things that could have led to could be classed as material unprofessionalism that does not reflect the morals of the Dallas Stars. It's potentially sexual misconduct, gambling, people have thrown out drinking drugs as a potential, but it'd have to be quite an egregious misuse of drink or drugs for the substance misuse programs to not be implemented. So I'm thinking.
Yeah, but then maybe if they're trying to keep it quiet, maybe they just wouldn't. Maybe he would just say, okay, I'm gonna go check into a place.
Yeah, but
they'd be like, okay, then we'll just keep it quiet then.
I don't necessarily think you can fire someone. I think, to my understanding, like, you have to almost give them the chance and the support to go into.
Oh, maybe to walk away, maybe, or something.
Yeah, and like
good point.
The vacuum being left and like the things that are being said, like if it was drink or drugs or something that is entirely personal, you'd have thought, out of respect to Montgomery, it would be, leave of absence. They try and cover it up in that sort of way.
Good
know
point.
what I mean?
Good
like,
point.
Unless it's, I don't know how egregious a situation involving. Yeah, it could be a situation that's been brought on by drink or drugs, but even though allegedly it's not criminal. So the theory being bandied about is that it's potentially an extramarital affair. This is the thing, like, we have so little to go.
This is going to sound terrible.
Go on.
But it would surprise me in the hockey world, kind of like Kuzi with his cocaine use. Oh my god, a hockey player taking cocaine? What a shock. I can't believe it. It's only because they caught him on film. They don't have to do anything about it. But like,
maybe this is the thing, that Jim Montgomery sex tape's going to come out in.
Oh yeah, maybe.
in the
Maybe,
next
yeah,
week.
true.
It
would surprise me in the hockey world if a coach having an extramarital affair was deemed a fireable offence.
But then
that's fucking awful. That's an awful thing to have to say, but it's the truth.
Well, yeah. What was that scandal a few years ago? Like, wasn't Patrick Sharp shagging Duncan Keith's wife, and that's why he got traded, allegedly.
Allegedly.
No, he definitely got traded.
Shit, let me ring Ali quick, just in case. Yeah, allegedly.
But this is the thing with the Montgomery case. Like, there are so many things that are scratched off that you're left thinking, well, what could it possibly be? Like, equally, I can't imagine, even if it is drink or drugs related. Like, I don't know. What are you gonna? Like, Monty's doing a bit of cocaine. Like, is that we're gonna sack off the team as well?
But then I said to you, like, if someone's got evidence of something in this day and age, now that's it. You can't. Maybe somebody said to Jim Nill, "I've got evidence of this, and X has happened, and I'm not happy. And if he doesn't get fired, then that's it. Mm-hmm. It's going to come out. I don't know. The problem is, as well, is that by respecting his privacy, you're just opening up all kinds of speculation, aren't you?
Chuckleheads like us saying, "Oh, maybe he was doing this, maybe he was doing that."
Yeah, exactly. Do you know what I hope it was? I hope he got a line on first print Winter Classic jerseys and he was selling them on eBay.
He's like
authentic.
stealing loads of
equipment
stationery.
and stuff.
Yeah.
Hudobin's like, where are all my sticks? Monty's like, no.
The other idea was gambling, so like betting on Stars games.
That'd be interesting.
Which...
Is that why Tyler Sagan's only playing 4 minutes a night?
He's scratching Alexander Radulov and like...
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Oh, my God, yes.
There you go.
He's got a cheeky grand on the game. Radulov's like, why am I being scratched? And Montgomery, we haven't scored. I scored 2 days ago. Yeah, we didn't score last night, did you? Get upstairs.
It was an off day.
Yeah, exactly.
So the terrible, reprehensible human being in me wants to know because I love gossip. But
yeah.
I also want to know just because, thinking about it, I've got no justifiable reason to want to know other than...
There's no justifiable reason. We love to know each other's... Yeah, we love to know each other's business, don't we?
We need the dirt. I need the dirt so badly. So badly. Like, I just don't know what it could be.
Yeah, I get what you mean, but, I'm sure the Montgomery stuff will come out in a few days, or... I mean, it's hockey, maybe it never will, but... We'll move on before we accuse Jim Nill of being the next Antichrist or something. And
until we get...
being too mean to Jim Montgomery.
Until we get Jeffrey Epstein mixed up in all of this nonsense.
Yeah, exactly. It's Jim Montgomery, Building 7, follow the money.
Jesus Christ.
But it was an interesting situation where a hockey coach was fired for non-hockey reasons, and then Pete DeBoer has been fired in San Jose for hockey reasons, off the back of a 5-game losing streak. Do you know why I'm surprised about this? Because it took so long, to be honest, Will.
I mean,
Here's my... Go on.
I don't see the problem, really. They're just under 500. They're, what, sixth in their division? What's the problem?
They're in perfect St. Louis Blues positioning. I'm not sure what's gone wrong. Isn't this the perfect plan?
I suppose so. So it's more... I wonder if Pete DeBoer... If the Sharks mimic what happened last year with the Blues now, could Pete DeBoer claim some sort of compensation of, like, look, I was an integral part of this cup win, clearly.
That's not a bad idea. It's like getting an Oscar posthumously. Like when Heath Ledger won for the Joker.
Yeah, like, I'm trying to think of what is similar to it.
Here was my thing with it.
Like claiming royalties. There you go.
Yes, past glories, but you should be, compensated in some way for them. Because I was thinking, like, the Sharks are some bloody good players that he's helped to develop. Like, Timo Meyer, Kevin Labanc. They're good players, and he's made them into really good players. I was just thinking, like, do you think he's just been bloody unlucky that for some reason the Sharks never traded for a decent goalie?
Yeah, I think this is Doug Wilson saying, "Well, I can't fire myself. That'd be ridiculous." Yeah. But yeah, he's absolutely the victim of them not having Jimmy Howard in net right now, basically, isn't it? I don't know, it's just one of those precarious things where, like, Martin Jones was good enough when he was playing well, but he was never incredible. He was never elite.
No.
And hell, you've only got to look at the complete opposite end of the continent at Carey Price in Montreal and see just how far a goalie can fall, sort of thing. So, yeah, I don't know, like, Martin Jones didn't have that cushion to drop off and then still be serviceable. He's dropped off from serviceable to fucking dog. So, I don't know, they haven't had any young goalies coming through, to my knowledge. They've not exactly future-proofed the position, and they've just been riding on, well, we'll be good enough in front of Martin Jones that it won't matter, which is a fine sort of strategy to have, until he's not good enough to even prop that up. So
Yeah, and then until it turns out your tens of $1 million spent on various defensemen just for some reason isn't cutting the mustard. Some nights you're going to have your goalie bail you out, aren't you?
yeah, absolutely. When you've got all that money tied up in players like Mark Edward Vlasic, and then it turns out that somehow Justin Braun was the key to that pairing, what can you do? But, like, it is and it isn't Pete DeBoer's fault, isn't it? Like, he's done really well.
I think he's bloody unlucky. I think he's really unlucky. They lose Pavelski because of the cap situation, which has got nothing to do with him.
Mm-hmm.
I think if you ask Pete DeBoer, he'd rather have Pavelski back than one of either Carlson, Burns, or Vlasic.
Well, you definitely trade Vlasic for Pavelski, but I don't know. I think I'd rather have Carlson or Burns ahead of Pavelski.
But I'm thinking if you've got three of those defensemen, you don't need all. It's kind of silly, but you don't need all three. You really don't.
Yeah, I know what you mean, and that would be the case if Vlasic was playing as well as Vlasic can play, but he's not.
True.
So it's like saying you'd rather have Joe Pavelski than Eric Carlson, Brent Burns, or
Tim Heed.
I don't know. Yeah, I was going to say Tim Heed, but I didn't want to say Tim Heed. Kevin Miller,
Young Tim
like, but Brendan Dillon, like. Vlasic he's basically Tyler. I'd say Tyler Myers, but Tyler Myers has resurged into a competent defenseman again.
Like John Hines in New Jersey, that was just bad goaltending, and the team was playing very badly. Like I said, they're trying to have fucking 10 men on the ice, for fuck's sake. That's how well things are going over in New Jersey. Whereas the Sharks, like the past 2 years, their goalies combined have been .884. That's insane. That's insanely terrible.
John Hines is a really good comparison because that's the situation with John Hines in Jersey. Like, as much as it was goalies being shit, like, the whole team was so bad that Hines is potentially, marred his reputation more than not. Whereas I think Pete DeBoer is not going to struggle to find work next year. I think he'll walk into a job. Yeah, this is it. I think this is purely one of those ones where it's like, well, we had to do something. I highly doubt Doug Wilson was just sitting back waiting and then talking to Martin Jones after every game and saying, "Oh, yeah, sorry you're playing, sorry you're not playing that well. It's all Pete de Boer's fault." I think Wilson just has gotten to the point where it's like, right, we've got to do something, and let's pull out the classic card.
And the thing is, I mean, what can the Sharks trade for a goalie, really? But I mean, they've hardly got any picks. All their players are either too expensive for teams to take on. They're never going to be able to swap out Martin Jones or Arundel for another goalie because teams aren't going to take on Jones's contract, and Arundel just isn't playing well. You're not going to risk giving up a serviceable backup to take a backup who's not very good. Yeah. And I mean, what do they have really? Players like Timo Meyer or Kevin Labanc, they want to keep those because that's their next crop ideally.
Yeah, it's that problem. Like, are you a better team if you trade Timo Meyer for a goalie, or keep your shit goalie and keep Timo Meyer? That's the hard question. I think to an extent, you probably could get, like, Timo Meyer is incredible, but you probably could get away with trading one of the Sharks forwards for a goalie. Clearly not. Well,
yeah, and if teams know that you're in the market for a goalie, they're going to be like, well, yeah, you can have our backup, but we want a first and 2 seconds and a prospect.
What do Friedman and Marek always say? They when you're sinking, they throw your anvils or something like that. Like,
yeah, exactly. Yeah,
and it's a case of even without considering teams not wanting to help the Sharks, if there are good goalies, teams want to fucking keep their good goalies. It's a 2-goalie league now, really.
Yeah, it is.
Your Anton Hudobins, your Yaro Halaks, your whoever you want to have around the
Thomas
league.
Greiss, maybe.
Yeah, Thomas Greiss, like Grubauer, like they're not available now. Teams are hanging on to those players. They're a bit painted into a corner and definitely shouldn't reflect on Pete de Boer by any stretch of the imagination.
No, I don't think it will. The last thing on this as well, it was funny as well that all the insiders who reported the firing were very quick to point out as well this was purely a hockey decision and nothing else.
But it would be
which
funny
is now
if it
the new
wasn't
narrative.
So depressing.
I know. Like that has now got to be the line when a coach gets fired. This is purely a hockey decision because you never know now.
No, well, especially 24 hours after Montgomery getting fired.
I know.
1 in 5 NHL coaches has been sacked this year so far.
Well, we are, like I say, I keep saying we're at Berube time, so
it was always going to happen. Hopefully, we'll get some more in the next few weeks.
In other news, where every good hockey man got a boner the size of the Space Needle, Nathan McKinnon said he would take less money again for the sake of his team. I don't want to delve into this, obviously. That we all know it's a ridiculous contract. He explained when he signed it, he was getting $44 million. So, let's not cry over the fact that Nathan McKinnon's kind of playing for professional hockey for $6.5 million a year. But here's my question to you. He says he takes less money on his next contract. In your opinion, Will, how much is less money? What's his next contract if he says he's... Now, I'm going to give a caveat because the cap might change. So for argument's sake, we'll say when McKinnon's contract comes up next time, the cap is still $81.5 million. Just for argument's sake, just to keep it as level as we can. What would you say less money is then for Nathan McKinnon?
I'd imagine he's talking in the range of sort of $9.5 million or something like that, like a Tyler Seguin.
That's what I thought.
Yeah, but even
I thought he'd want to be the highest paid player, still take like less than 10.
Yeah, not absolutely break the mold sort of thing. I still think even if he took 10, he's taking a discount.
Oh yeah, for sure.
Like Nathan McKinnon is worth Conor McDavid money, really?
Yeah, I think so. Like you should. Dmitry Filipovich put his stats up, didn't he? When he was playing without Ranton and Landeskog, he was still phenomenal, absolutely phenomenal.
That's it, and that's not even to say that he's as good as McDavid. It's just that in some ways, any team that has a top 5 talent should be paying them as much as the highest salary is being paid. Do you know what I mean? Because as far as the Avalanche are concerned, Nathan McKinnon is Conor McDavid.
Yeah,
so
absolutely.
As much as there should be some comparison around the league, like when you're in that upper echelon, you've got every right to say, if a team tries to say, oh well, you're not worth 12.5 because you're not Conor McDavid, McKinnon just turns around and says, well, you haven't got fucking Conor McDavid, you've got me, and I'm the fucking Nets, mate. you know
Which is why I want 14.
Yeah, you fucking pricks. For that, add an extra $500,000 on for disrespecting me. Yeah, when's he due up? 2023, or is it earlier than that? Because he only signed for like 6 years, didn't he?
It is up 22-23.
So that's when he's RFA for the start of that year, or is that his last year?
No, that's his last year. It'll be UFA
Oh,
after that.
Christ. So in theory, we'll have a new TV deal by then, which
Good point, yeah.
I don't know, might take the cap down at this rate.
Yeah. It's going to be amazing at that point if Nathan McKinnon takes a discount and because of the TV deal he's making $15 million a year.
It's proper MLB money.
Yeah.
Nathan McKinnon has signed for 18 years at...
Yeah.
I couldn't even begin to speculate what the cap will look like in 2023. But yeah, it's probably going to go up a bit. So yeah, I mean, a discount then could be 12.
Yeah, that's what I'm thinking.
But yeah, I think you're right in saying that he'll be the highest paid player, but not by a lot.
Yeah, he's not going to blow Ranton out of the water. It's just going to be it's just going to be a bit more. Nathan McKinnon has the 82nd best contract in the league. But in the last 2.5 years, where does he rank in points at all strengths? Quick pop quiz, Will.
So
Where's Nathan McKinnon at all strengths, points total, in the last 2.5 years?
2.5 years. So what, this season?
Yeah,
and
so
then
this
the
season
full
and then the previous
preceding
two.
It. Okay.
I'll tell you what. Do you want to throw out some names? Because I've got the top 10 here of points in the last 2.5 years.
That's what I was going to do. I was going to talk through it. 'Cause part of me wants to say he's either going to be first or he'll be like fourth. So I just want to think. So
Okay.
Probably McDavid.
Yeah.
Kucherov.
Yeah.
Okay, so if I just chuck out some names for the top 10 and then I'll start thinking who might be ahead of McKinnon. So he's obviously in the top 10. So McKinnon, McDavid, Kucherov, Leon Draisaitl,
Yeah.
John
4 for 4
Tavares.
so far. No.
It's one of those exercises where you just forget players. Who is an NHL player? Taylor Hall's not on there, is he? Jack Eichel.
No.
Oh shit, it's all going downhill.
Swing and a miss.
Patrick Kane?
Yes.
Oh, Claude Giroux's got to be on there.
Yes.
Who else has been a good player? Kevin LeBanc?
No. Making that money.
Brent Burns?
No.
Bit of a left field one.
I'll give you one more to try and redeem yourself.
All right.
One more guess.
I've got to really think about this one. I'm struggling for teams now, let alone players. Blooming heck.
Can you just try and name at least one team?
If you could name a position, like Alex Barkov.
Yes, great
That
shout.
was safe. That's.
I would not have got that.
That's
I would
really
not
good.
have got Alex Barkov.
Is Sid on there as well?
No, he's not.
There you go. I didn't think he was.
Okay, so I'll go reverse order. Last
Okay.
2.5 seasons at
So-
all strengths.
So I think, last 2.5 seasons, I think McKinnon is behind McDavid, Kucherov. That's it. I think he's third.
Mate, but I'll give you bonus points for that. Yes, he is. All right.
Yes. Is that the two that are ahead of him?
Yes. So all strengths, last 2.5 seasons. Claude Giroux, 208 points. Alexander Ovechkin, 209.
Jesus.
Alex Barkov, 210. Steven Stamkos, 210. Patrick Kane, 222. Leon Draisaitl, 228. The only one I think... Oh, yeah, the highest one you missed? Brad Marchand, 231.
I always forget that Marchand's putting up points left, right, and centre.
Yeah. McKinnon, 243. Kucherov, 259. McDavid, 276.
The thing with Stamkos as well is I've just got it in my head for basically no reason at all. He's not a point per game player. Like Steven Stamkos in my head is like a 70, 75 point player, even though he really isn't.
Yeah. Even though he is an absolute definitive point producer.
Yeah.
You just...
If
I guess because, like, yes, but you say you wouldn't think you'd have two on one team either. So Kucherov kind of just takes all the plaudits, and you kind of forget, I guess, that Stamkos is even there. I suppose.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, I think it's partly the sort of explosion of Kucherov as well just outshadows, like, he's not the star on the team, and it's not strictly a double act sort of thing, because there's so many good players on that Tampa team.
Yes, exactly. Yeah, they don't go hand in hand. It's not like McDavid and Draisaitl.
Yes, it's Kucherov, Stamkos, Point, and everyone else.
All right, there we
Crazy.
go.
That's good. I like that.
Oh, actually, you know what? Just quickly, one last thing.
Go on.
What the fuck's wrong with Mike Hoffman? Like, what the hell was that?
What a fucking nutter. What an absolute lunatic. Like,
I guess we know now why him and his missus are so fucking, like, in love with each other, because they're both fucking loopy.
Mate, it's one of those ones where, like, it was sort of, wasn't it dropped or settled out of court or whatever? It was never really, like, the
Yeah,
legal
we never got to
side
the bottom of it, really.
Yeah, we never really got to the bottom of it. And it was enough that, yeah, it wasn't at the forefront of my mind sort of thing. And like you say, where the bulk of it was sort of coming from his girlfriend. Well, what's her name? Megan something, isn't it?
No.
Whatever.
Either way,
Melissa
let's just say Mrs. Hoffman.
Mrs. Hoffman. From Mrs. Hoffman, Mike Hoffman was relatively not distanced from it, but it wasn't. He hadn't had anything pinned on him, but.
Yeah, everyone was saying she was a bunny boiler, and he was almost like this innocent party who was just kind of caught up in this mess with his wife. But it turns out, no. He's fucking loopy as well.
Mate, the lunacy of it, the absolute lunacy of it, like, I'm going to hunt you down and try and fight you because it came out that we were abusing you and your wife. Like, and it sort of gives off an air of he's really unhappy with how his life has gone since then. if I'm Dale Talon sitting in my office in Sunrise, and I see, you know, watching this game and then find out what it was all about, I'd be pulling Mike Hoffman in my office and be like, what the fuck do you think you're playing at? You're that pissed off about your life that, you know, X, Y, and Z, you're straight down to the minors, mate. See you fucking later.
Just in case you're wondering what we're talking about, Mike Hoffman was skating round after Eric Carlson the whole game tonight when they were on the ice together saying, fight me, Eric, fight me, fight me. And Eric just kept saying, no, I'm not going to fight you. Christ almighty.
He's a fucking lunatic. Like, I'm so glad it happened. That's one of those beautiful things that mental. What an absolute unhinged piece of shit.
If you live next door to the Hoffmans, just, you know, look out. Be careful.
Mate. Fuck.
Maybe move.
He's definitely going to set your pins on fire, and he fucking hell.
I'll say. Oh God! All right. Speaking of moving, Will, man versus 8-year-old.
Hey, Will, you schmuck! You're gonna get roasted by an 8-year-old, you fool!
You moved a point closer this week as you won this week. The comeback is definitely blue season. The comeback is on.
Yeah, I just need to find someone to sack.
From a 9-point deficit, you're now only down by 8. So
fucking beautiful. One step at a time.
Great, one step at a time. All right.
I've just got
this
to win
week's
the
games.
next period.
Just win the first period. That's all you got to do. Okay, this week's games: Lightning Bruins.
Oh, Jesus,
that's tricky. Lightning not playing great, but Bruins on a downturn. Bruins are one of those teams that's kind of hit a bad streak at the moment, so this could go either way.
Did they lose against Washington last night?
Yeah, 3-2. It was a tight. To be fair, Washington normally murder us, so I was happy with 3-2.
That'll do.
Yeah, I'll take that.
Bruins.
Panthers, Islanders.
Panthers, actually.
Wild Oilers, which sounds like a National Geographic show.
Yeah. Up next after Ice Road Truckers.
Yeah.
Oilers, I think.
Sens, Blue Jackets.
Blue Jackets.
And Coyotes, Devils.
Oh, Coyotes, without doubt.
All right, no problems. In the interest of fairness, I forgot. Georgia went Lightning, Panthers, Oilers, Sens, Coyotes. So there we go.
Yeah, okay. I've just got to hope that the Blue Jackets sort me out, and I'm really not happy with that pick already. I've forgotten how bad the Blue Jackets have been this year.
Yeah, you've taken your hand off the piece and you're like, no, oh shit. Sorry, damn it. No, sorry, take your fingers off.
Done.
That's
No,
it.
fair enough.
Already done. Already done. There we go. Cheers for listening this week's folks. Thank you very much to Jason Paul. As always, go and check out his stuff at Wave Intel. It's fantastic. Part 2 next week of his interview. Will, any last words?
I'm looking forward to talking about John Tortorella being fired next week. It's going to be good.
Fantastic. There we go. Take care, folks. We'll see you later.
Peace.